If physics or chemistry has ever felt harder than it should, there's a good chance the real problem isn't the science, it's the math underneath. On this channel, we're going to fix that. We're going to treat algebra like a toolbox, something you build piece by piece and use to solve problems in physics, chemistry, calculus, everywhere. No memorizing without understanding, no random steps that don't make sense, just clear step-by-step math that actually connects to the real world. So if you're ready to stop guessing and start understanding, you're in the right place. So what is it that makes physics and chemistry difficult? I think most people would agree it's these little guys here. In fact, some of these equations can make students quite uncomfortable. And it's not because they're difficult, it's because they don't know what to do with them. So let's take a look at a common scenario. You're sitting in class, the teacher introduces a new topic. You understand. Maybe the teacher even does a few examples on the board. Again, you take them down in your notes, seem straightforward, you thought you understood. Later on, you try to do an assignment by yourself, or perhaps even worse when you're doing a test, and you come across a question that looks unfamiliar to you, and you think to yourself, there's not enough information to solve this. I don't have a formula for this. We never learned this in class. Not only have I heard students say these words, I've literally said them myself. I very specifically remember looking down at questions at a test and thinking, we were never taught this. But I can tell you that looking back now, I was indeed taught, and I did indeed have the tools necessary to solve those questions. I just didn't know how to use them properly. If I had understood them fully, they wouldn't have been able to surprise me with a question like that. So, why do teachers do this? Well, one reason is to test your understanding of the equations. And by that, I mean not just your ability to plug in numbers. Anybody can plug in numbers. They want to make sure you understand the equations. But the most important reason, or the most realistic reason, is because your time with your teacher is limited. Your teacher can only do a couple examples of each topic during a class, and then you have to do the practice problems or homework or whatever's been assigned, which is why it's so important to do those practice questions even if you're not getting credit for them. So, a lot of students try to memorize formulas, but the students that really understand the science, they do something different. They learn how to move the equations around, how to make the equations work for them. They don't memorize multiple equations when they can just memorize one and rearrange it. So in this particular example, we have PV equals nRT, which is a chemistry ideal gas equation. And I've seen people actually writing them down, memorizing them as separate equations, when in fact it's just one equation. You just have to know how to manipulate it. You can use this one equation to solve 5 different variables. So let's take a look at another common example. This is a physics question. Of course, it's for linear motion. And if you were asked to solve for velocity, you'd probably be fine because that's the way the question is set up. But if the question asks you to solve for displacement, you may or may not know how to do that. So how would we solve for displacement? Well, we need to get displacement by itself. So we would need to minus off the initial velocity from both sides. That, of course, is going to cancel on the right-hand side and leave us with 2AD on the right-hand side. We still don't have displacement by itself, but that's simple. We're just going to divide both sides by 2A. Of course, that's going to cancel on the right-hand side, and now we're left with an equation in terms of displacement. So if you were doing this question and you didn't know exactly how to get from A to B, that's going to keep you from doing the whole question. And if you saw or you know how to go from A to B, that's excellent. But if there was any doubt when you saw that first equation on how to get from there to the bottom, then you're in the right place. So how can you improve your algebra skills? Well, you need to practice rearranging formulas, not just solving them. You want to get comfortable with fractions and powers because these are the places where a lack of understanding will cause mistakes when it comes to rearranging equations. And of course, slow down and do it one step at a time. When you're learning, you need to show every step. Like in the example I did where I showed you where I minused it off of both sides, I could have just moved the initial velocity to the left, but I wanted to make sure that you could see where it was coming from because it's important that you not only know where it's coming from, but why I was able to do that. So if you're ready to Stop struggling and build your algebra toolbox. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and check out the next video where we dive into the properties of algebra, specifically focusing on fractions.